everyone. Thank you for staying with us for the last session of our conference. I'm Sayaka Yasuda, and it's a pleasure to chair the panel discussion. We are very fortunate to have an amazing group of leaders in Geroscience with us today. Our moderator is Dr. Vincenzo, who presented earlier with his team on the important role of energy metabolism in aging. And our panelists are Professor Hideyuki Okano, Professor Makoto Nakanishi, Professor Christopher Chen, and Professor Brian Kennedy. Each of them has shared cutting-edge and meaningful insight from their basic molecular mechanisms of aging to therapeutic strategies, as well as the directions we should take to advance healthy longevity in the years ahead. With these four remarkable keynote speakers, the title of today's panel discussion is, I don't know, there's no panel. Anyway, title is From Today to Tomorrow, the Evolving Future of Geroscience. Vincenzo, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you. So welcome everyone, and thanks to the speakers for making time for this panel. So what I want to do, we're going to have a set of questions, but maybe to also keep a bit the audience more engaged, what I would like to do is that maybe once we reach about half of our questions, maybe we can already then try to engage a little bit with the public here and then see if there are some pressing points before we go to the rest of the questions. But maybe to open this, what we can do is to start with the first general question, and we can start maybe going in this order. So I would try to open, since there's been a lot of interest in talks, and we want to talk about the evolving future of geroscience. So the first question would be, from your perspective, what are the most transformative developments that could shape geroscience, let's say, in the next 10 years?
Yeah, so it's very difficult question, but so in the past 5 or 10 years, so major pathways or the development involved longevity or such as NAD pathway and so sirtuin and mTOR pathway have been identified. So yeah, we should now integrate. So how they interact each other, and also from the comprehensive studies, so the multi-omic studies, so we should clarify which pathways could be involved for them and how to regulate and so interconnect. So those integrative knowledge will be necessary to achieve the real healthy longevity. Sometimes if you emphasize one pathway too much, so that is so sacrifice other pathway, and totally so it's not good for the the human health. That could happen. So those integrated evaluation assessment should be achieved by using model system using human cells and also AI-based evaluation that should be developed and very they not to say quickly, and so we should need that. So very important. That is very essential to understand to develop our geroscience in these 10 years. So this the platform should be developed within a couple of years, and then we should go forward. That's my feeling.
Right, maybe you want to add on that?
Well, I agree with that. I think there's a lot more research that needs to be done in that area. But I also think that, to me, what's happening is like this human health span revolution is happening already. It's happening in clinics, it's happening online, it's happening everywhere you look, and it's a combination of all kinds of different interventions, lifestyle, supplements, drugs, Like I said yesterday, I think there are 50,000 people taking rapamycin already, roughly off-label for aging, and other kinds of devices and things. I think there's no putting the horse back in the barn. It's happening. And it's exciting. I'm supportive of it, but it's also a bit scary because it's not very regulated right now. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, provided that momentum continues, we're going to really be at the point of having personalized interventions that have modest effects on health span and lifespan in the population. Now, by that I mean maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. Jan didn't show the data from his clock, but he's already taking people that go through the Novi clinic and measuring the principal components and targeting those clinical parameters and the components that's driving mortality risk, and you can see that mortality risk coming down in a very personalized way. So I think we're going to see more and more of that, and unfortunately it's probably going to happen in people that have means to start with, like a lot of things do. And there's going to be some mistakes along the way probably, but overall I think it's the next decade, that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, Chris, if you want to add maybe more on the clinical side of things, right? Since, like what do you think in the next decade would be really transformative?
I think that the field really has to demand better rigor in your clinical trials. And that means that not only do you have to identify the right targets, you also have to identify the right groups that you're going to test this target on, and to really agree on what are your outcomes going to be. I think one of the biggest challenges that I see externally looking at healthy longevity is that there isn't this agreement yet.
Am I allowed to respond?
Of course.
Yeah, I agree that there isn't an agreement yet. There's no agreement on the endpoints, but there's kind of a cross-validation going on. We're seeing which endpoints match up with which interventions. I agree we need rigorous clinical studies as well, but I'm not sure that those are going to keep up with the pace of the interventions. And so the question is, how do we make sure we're doing things that help people and have that rigor while it's already happening in a widespread use? It's a little bit different than treating a disease in that healthy people are choosing to do these things, and they will find some place to do them. And so it's trying to take both of those things in parallel and get to some endpoint that's improving health span is the challenge.
Professor Makoto, if you want to add also.
Thank you. So first of all, I'd like to ask all of you to just identify the simple and the single biomarker for the aging. This is very important, Without that, we can't apply all the Geroscience technology to the clinical side. So this is essential. So within the 10 years, definitely have to identify that biomarker first. Then now we use the mouse as a model animal for the human diseases. But the result from the mouse, we can't explore to human. So we need AI technology to explore the mouse technology to the human. We have to combine the AI technology and clinical data and mouse data and all of them to create a good platform to predict human diagnostic value or something.
So maybe we can move, related to this actually, we can maybe start from you, Professor Makoto. Related to this, so how do we further accelerate, right, this translation from basic science to clinical to application at the scale of society? So is it on top of biomarkers and so on? Is it like funding? Is it really developing more biomarkers? Where do you guys see really the next, let's say, challenge points where we have to improve to accelerate?
Yeah, the most important part is, now the WHO doesn't recognize aging is a disease. So if aging is not a disease, how we can develop the therapeutic strategy to the aging? This is very important. That's why we have to develop the therapeutic strategy to the age-related diseases first. Then we explore that result to the human aging. So I think first we have to recognize that aging is a pre-symptomatic state. Then we decide how we can prevent or we can suppress that state. So this is a very important step to develop and facilitate geroscience to the clinical side.
Chris, what's your take on this side of, let's say, aging as pre-symptomatic to disease or as a disease category for accelerating therapeutics in relation to what Professor Makoto discussed?
I think for most fields of medicine, we all want to treat early disease or pre-symptomatic disease, pre-diabetes, pre-hypertension. We're all moving leftwards, asymptomatic Alzheimer's, etc. But I agree that we need a biomarker, we need a target. And I'm actually very encouraged by that recent editorial in Nature Biotechnology, where it was discussed how Big Pharma is actually starting to think about anti-aging drugs. And they are encouraged because of the data that they see from GLP-1 antagonists, for example, that in people who have diabetes or who are obese, treated with these, you can actually get significant reductions in, heart disease, kidney failure, dementia, etc. So I think that TAME was too early and might have chosen the wrong drug.
I agree.
Yes. But now I think that we accept that having a multiple endpoint trial with multiple age-related diseases with a suitable drug which has much stronger effects and also much cleaner target is probably more acceptable.
I agree with that. I think the challenge with the clinical trials is those are the sort of gold standard that needs to be done. But we need to test 100 different things too. And so we have to combine sort of the smaller RCTs using the biomarkers that we have and as they improve with sort of that gold standard study at the end. I think that you're right, the GLP-1 agonists have really changed how pharma thinks. I'm not sure still whether they're good for people that are not obese and not diabetic, but it could be, we don't know. And I also think that it's a bit of a semantic argument whether to call aging a disease or a risk factor for disease. The best drugs on the market treat risk factors, cholesterol, glucose, and aging is a bigger risk factor than any of those. So I don't really care what we call it as long as we recognize that we need to treat it.
Right. So I guess saying that means we need to accelerate also in the regulatory space, maybe more than just trying to define things, right, and just make things more permissive to test, right? So Professor Hideyuki, maybe you also want to add on this?
Yeah. So as already mentioned, so many regulatory bodies in many countries, such as FDA and EMA, also and the PMDA in Japan, they do not approve the drugs that prevent the disease, because the clinical trial is impossible to do that, or extremely difficult. So, but so as I mentioned, so we need to have develop the therapeutic method in the very late stages, early stages, pre-symptomatic stages. So it's now came to be able to detect the pre-symptomatic stages with various markers. It's not just extracellular vesicle or lots of imaging data and also genome, epigenome. So combine those, we can detect pre-symptomatic stages. If you start, therapeutics before the disease appears, we can maybe prolong the life expectancy with healthy state because they do not develop the diseases. So this is one of the important to achieve healthy longevities. And so other case for the saturin activator, how they combine each other, we need more science. In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, especially on the combination side, we certainly need more studies there. So now coming a little bit also to this context, but now in the context of the alliance that we're trying to shape up here and try to accelerate the connections between Japan research and Singapore in particular, our program at NUS, right? So where do you see, the key barriers to kind of make this as a sustainable collaboration between, especially in the aging science? So in terms of funding infrastructures, IP, regulatory differences, right? Because every country is different, and here we want to try to create a long-standing collaborations. So maybe again, starting from Professor Hideyuki, and then we go.
Yeah, actually, so yeah, regulatory differences are very serious between EMA and PMDA and FDA and the regulatory bodies in many countries. So that is, drug that is approved as a clinical trial. It's very different, regulation different. But so you may saw some, food that enhance, the health, people's health. So the regulation is very not so. It's very relaxed in Japan. It's getting a little bit because some unfortunate event happened due to Benikoji, and so a little bit difficult. But so those food, such as Morinaga and Meiji, can be used in both countries, so it's not so high hurdle, and begin with that, and then drug.
Maybe a bit closer. But more focusing also on the fact how we can also, I'd say, sustain really the collaboration, let's say in terms of research, right, as well. So this is really open to everyone. So how we can make this really work out, let's say, this collaboration.
First of all, I think that this is a big challenge to solve this problem and extend health span. And it's not a all or none challenge. It's going to be incremental advances in this field. So it'll go on for a long time. So I think it requires academic partnerships, and it also requires private sector academic partnerships to work together, because both sides of that equation have things to offer to really meet these challenges. And I think that you're seeing in this space a lot of opportunity to work together from the academic side and the corporate side. So that's great. If I could snap my fingers and have one thing happen, it would be that we had like a EU-like funding mechanism in Asia that would support collaborative projects across borders. Because one of the biggest challenges is you meet a university somewhere else, maybe there's a little bit of pilot funding, start some projects, and then there's no way to scale that to bigger grants from government-supported research, or it's very difficult to do that because the cross-border funding is challenging. I don't have a solution for that, and I think we can get around that by working together a little bit, but it's still a big challenge in Asia, is how do we collaborate with each other?
Maybe you want to add on that?
Well, we're never going to get an EU-type grant.
Yeah, I didn't say it was easy.
But what we can have is bilateral grants. So earlier this year, there was a call, much to my surprise, for collaborations between top Chinese universities and Singapore. I think a similar grant for Japan and Singapore might work. It's an issue of getting the NMRC and the Japanese agencies interested in doing that. I think Japan and Singapore have a lot of synergies. I think we're both quite orderly societies. And we have respect for rule of law, and we probably face the same concerns of a rapidly aging society, etc. We just need the mechanisms, hopefully, to go and sort of bring research groups together.
Right. So I guess we should start talking more and more to the funding agencies from both sides, right?
Yeah.
So maybe Professor Makoto, also what's your suggestion, or maybe on this point, if you have any ideas, or where you think it's the blocking points?
Okay, so in terms of the basic science, I don't think there is a tough problem of the international collaboration between Japan and Singapore. Recently, but I would like to say one thing. Recently, Japanese government started to establish a tight international collaboration between Japan and England, Japan and France, Japan, Switzerland, Japan, US, Japan, Canada, Australia. But there is a very important issues. This is patent issues. That's the reason why the close funding looks very difficult. Yeah. So all the country doesn't lose the patent. Right. So that's why they limit the fund used in our own country. That's a big problem. We have to resolve that problem first. Then we may create more tight and high level of collaboration.
So maybe related still to this to follow up. So we are talking about also the this neutral alliance like SARA, right? So that has a little bit, I guess, this idea to try to bridge further and kind of overcome some of these barriers. So how do you think that this could help in this cross-country collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I'd like to thank Sarah for contribution to making, creating the tight collaboration, especially in this Japan and Singapore. But so far, I don't have any idea how this works very good or not, because this is the first time for me. So, but definitely the tight international collaboration, I think the kind of the SARA finding is required for the generation of this type of collaboration. I think in future we'll have a more SARA-like foundation system.
Well, there may be some low-hanging fruit. I'm really pleased to see Japanese industry at this meeting. In the Alzheimer world, we have worked very closely with Eisai. And really working with Eisai has been sometimes a bit strange to understand how Japanese work, but more often than not very productive. And I think that for the lifestyle trials, for example, the next stage of the lifestyle trials would be to see whether any additional food supplement, drug, in addition to optimal lifestyle changes, would be better. So, for example, in the UK, they are doing finger plus metformin, or finger without metformin. I personally don't mind doing singer plus chocolate, or no chocolate. Or different doses of chocolate. I volunteer.
Well, I think one thing that's important and facilitating this meeting has really helped is that it started a really good communication. You know, there were several ideas that I got from the talks the last 2 days that I think we can work together on, and it starts with good ideas, and then so I think that we're well on the path to doing that. So I'm optimistic about the 2-day discussion.
Professor Hideyuki, if you want to add.
Is it still a question about SARA?
Still, about SARA. What's your
Yes, I'm very expecting such private sectors and contribute bilateral interactions.
Can you put the mic a bit closer? It's working.
Okay. Yes, so I hope that such a private sectors contribute to the bilateral interaction between Japan and Singapore. As Dr. Nakanishi has said that AMED or JSPS is supporting bilateral interaction between Japan and other countries such as UK. I'm working as a program officer of that. But that's in governmental, the project usually only 5 years. Only 5 years. So that's healthy longevity can be achieved only 5 years? No, not at all. It takes forever. Yes, that means the private sector, as long as they present, I hope they can keep fostering the younger peoples every year, and then they develop, and so there's senior people will help the younger people. Such a as a continuous life cycle is very important. In my mind.
So maybe before we ask a few questions from the public already, so along this line, right? So for instance, we just saw the talk from Motoshi regarding the ASAGI Lab, right? So do you envision that models like this should become more the normality as we go, not just in Japan, but also here in Singapore and other countries? So would you have other ideas to suggest in this direction?
I strongly support this idea of having more exchanges. We need to go and sort of have junior people exchanging. I mean, maybe a bit tough to get Singaporeans to learn Japanese, but certainly we can provide training in English for the Japanese researchers, and this happened before. In terms of working with ASAGI Lab,
or with a system like ASAGI, right? So
yes.
creating like a venture system, non-venture system, academic system that they talk to each other, for
beyond
instance.
my pay grade, but certainly some of the ideas, as Brian said, have been most intriguing. I mean, I really would like to do a trial of rose-tinted glasses versus violet-tinted glasses, or none. I mean, I've always wanted to look like John Lennon, actually.
Yeah,
But those are interesting ideas based on some sort of plausible science.
Yeah.
So we should do it.
So maybe, to keep it a bit more interactive, there are already questions from the public that would like to address some of the points that we covered today. Okay, there's a question over there.
Thank you for the sharing. So my question is, over the past 2 days, we heard a lot about all the science behind healthy longevity. So from an implementation science perspective, what do you think are the key services and interventions in longevity clinics that will be most beneficial, that will promote and also propel this concept to the public?
Yeah, maybe I can start with this. I work with a lot of longevity clinics, and so I see a lot of the different things that are happening. I think that, first of all, you would expect, right now people are paying somewhere between $3,000 and $250,000 a year to go to a longevity clinic. You would expect these people to have good medical care. However, about a third of them come into clinics and they have medical conditions. And I don't think a clinic should be doing geroprotector stuff without making sure the person has good medicine and we're not missing some clinical condition. So I think some of the best clinics right now are places like hospitals that have good medical care, and they do sort of a full medical checkup on people that come in and make sure they don't have some level of cancer or some other chronic condition that needs to be treated. Surprisingly, a lot of people have those conditions. Then beyond that, I don't think you can do a longevity clinic without lifestyle. These are proven strategies that help people stay healthier and prevent disease, as we've heard for the last 2 days. And it's not easy to get people to make changes. That is implementation science. But when you can get people to make even incremental changes, it benefits their health. And then sort of the third level is geroprotective interventions. And that's a wide range of different things. It can be supplements, it can be drugs, it can be all the way to gene therapy. Again, I don't recommend, but it can go all that far in some clinics. And I think the features that should be in play there are safety. There should be a good safety argument for whatever you're implementing in people. And I don't think that there has to be efficacy right now. I think if people are empowered and are making their own decisions and they're knowledgeable, that's fine. But the clinic has to be transparent. It can't promise to take 10 years off your life with a hyperbaric chamber when the data is not there to support that. The clinic really, to me, it's compelled to say, all right, here's the evidence on this particular intervention. We think it's safe. Here's some data and some reason why it might affect the aging process. Here's the current data that supports that. And if you want to be an early adopter and try it, that's fine. If you want to be more conservative and stick with the lifestyle until these things are validated, that's also fine. What bothers me is when clinics are saying, all right, we're going to make you 10 years younger with our proven technology, which is not proven yet. So, and I guess the final point to that is there has to be measurements. We have to be using biomarkers of aging that can be clocks, also standard markers of disease progression. And the clinic needs to be showing improvement with people over time in these markers. So those are sort of the criteria I look at when I talk to clinics.
Thank you, Prof. Brian.
Chris, maybe you want to add on top of that, or you agree with Brian this time?
Well, I take a much more conservative view. You ask for implementation strategies, but you can only implement something which has an evidence base. So so Brian is right. Brian is right that if you're paying, you can do whatever you want. But if we are talking about publicly funded and therefore regulated healthy longevity clinics, we can really only implement what is considered to be safe and effective. And therefore, we have to go and sort of find ways of doing this. Now, I think that Brian is right. The lowest hanging fruit is implementing lifestyle changes. And we are trying very hard to implement SINGER with the protocols, etc. And it's not easy. There are limited resources. We don't know what the health economics is. And you have to very rigorously study this. Implementing something is tough, not easy. And it's even worse if you don't have evidence.
I agree with that. At the public level, we shouldn't be implementing things. I mean, there is some evidence for almost everything people are doing. It's not definitive evidence. And I think one of the reasons to partner with these and talk to these private clinics is that they're generating data that's very meaningful. It's not controlled in the way we would like, but we can go back and do the controlled study once we really start to see what's having an impact. And so, I agree on the public side, though. There needs to be more conservativeness.
You have to decide what kind of clinic you're going to be. Are you going to take the cosmetics approach and, people will come to you for all kinds of treatments. You don't have to provide any large-scale clinical trials. You're just doing it. Or are you providing a public service?
Maybe Professor Makoto, you also want to add on this? In Japan, I don't know how's the situation.
I mean, I don't have any idea about that because I didn't follow that kind of
the longevity clinic development. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Better to focus on the actual science now.
It's worth adding, though, that Japan has a lot of stem cell clinics.
Yeah, I mean, the stem cell,
which are one of the treatments for
longevity. That's still, one of the major, maybe now priorities that is happening, right? Perhaps.
Now I have to say, because I'm president of International Society of Stem Cell Research, I strictly prohibit unproved therapy. Without any evidence.
Right. There should be evidence.
I do not recommend those unproved therapy to take for any patient.
Exactly. So in Japan, I guess at the moment it's super tightly regulated, right? The space of the stem cell therapy.
Right? So there's some unproved therapy. So some clinics do that. So we try to get rid of that.
Exactly. Yeah, we need the data first. Right. Any other pressing point?
Thank you.
Kevin has a point. Thank you for the question. Yeah. Kevin.
Thanks. Yeah, so it's been a wonderful 2 days, and we have talked a lot about interventions, supplements, and all sorts of molecules that might help with aging. One thing I sort of observed that we might have left out is if we are doing interventions in terms of supplements or treatments at the more elderly population, we need to consider the underlying conditions, right? So the older they are, the more complex they are. Cardiovascular diseases, cancer, metabolic diseases. So maybe I missed it, but the studies did not consider the complexity of such cases when we adopt these treatments. Let's say NMN, right? If someone has cancer, should they take NMN? I read the data seems to point both sides. You should, or maybe you shouldn't, right? So maybe that's one area to pursue, and maybe just for the panel to elaborate further. I'm curious to know.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question, and I think, again, good clinics are aware of that and hopefully not doing that. I also don't know. We thought, and I thought when we move into humans, the best place to intervene would be middle age before people have chronic diseases. But we've been evaluating people taking this Rejuven product with the alpha-ketoglutarate, The people benefit from that the most are the ones that are biologically older than their chronologic age, or the people that are chronologically older. So they're actually getting a bigger benefit, at least by the biomarkers we're using. So I don't think we know whether that will happen with all interventions or just AKG, or some things might work better in people that are exercising or other things. So we really need to be able to stratify populations by who's going to respond to which kind of interventions. And I do think there is a concern when you have people that have multiple chronic diseases layering geroprotective interventions on there. We don't know what's going to happen there.
So Kevin, so we can always have a priori exclusion criteria for anything that we do. And in the beginning, when you're evaluating a treatment, it's probably better to be safe than sorry. But first, you have to do that. You have to show efficacy, show safety in that selected population, and then subsequently move on to increase the limits. And that's happened for many diseases. Oh, sorry. Can't say disease, can I? Okay. Many medical interventions. So you start slow, start narrow, and then broaden out. And you're very correct about concerns as to whether the treatments are generalizable. But we will only find out if we do the trials.
And I think maybe to add on this a bit, the same dichotomy goes also for things like, maybe this is a point for Professor Makoto, for things like senolytic interventions, right? I mean, people want to, senescence is good to block cancer growth, but, people want to target it in aging. So perhaps also, Professor, you can add something on that point, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I completely agree that, definitely all the drugs have both sides, effective and harmful. So we have to really robustly evaluate how these drugs can be effective or harmful. Otherwise, definitely in the future, that type of drugs will damage us a lot. So even in a supplement, we have to think about the severe side effects. So I think we should be more careful about that point.
And maybe then changing a little bit, let's say type of question, right? So if we think again about the future also, not just about the science that we know now and let's say the skills that we have now, right? Let's say, but especially maybe looking at the next generation of scientists, what kind of skills, based on all what we have seen also in these 2 days and your expertise, would be really important for the next wave of geroscience leaders in Asia in particular? If you can have any advice maybe for the new generations, right?
Yeah, for me, so that's my personal opinion, is okay, yeah? Sure. Yeah, of course, so you should know the biology and medical science and mathematics and bioinformatics, fundraising, and so politics. And making friends.
Yeah. Fair point.
I think on the research side, we're getting a lot of people trained in the biology of aging. Maybe not enough in Asia, but I think it's happening. I think we haven't talked about China, but they put a tremendous amount of money into basic science and aging research over the last few years. On the medical side, though, we still don't have aging in medical curriculums. I mean, it's the one thing that happens to everybody. I don't care what you want to call it, but people should understand what's happening in the aging process in medical school. And I just happened to be in contact with about 10 different 10 second-year medical students in Mauritius, and they came up to me and said, "All right, so if you think changing the medical curriculum's hard in the U.S., try Mauritius." They said, "We want to do this. We want to practice longevity medicine, and we want to do it the right way, but we have no education in medical school, no money to go abroad, and no time to do anything outside, and so this is a big problem, and it's a big problem everywhere. I don't understand why medical schools don't teach this, even if they don't want to call it a disease. It's clearly a big risk factor. People are coming in worried about all kinds of aspects of aging to doctors' offices. It needs to change."
Chris, any suggestion for you for the next generations? Apart from working hard, yeah.
The next generation has just told us time is up.
Oh, it's already up. But then we can conclude, yeah, we can have last few words.
Okay, so I'll say to the young people here what I tell my PhD students as well. Please make us look like dinosaurs. You know, you will have new solutions. You can see how, you know, people have overcome challenges, etc., but you'll have new challenges. So I'm sure that you will do well. And the best thing is to, as you said, Professor, have fun, make friends, work together.
Professor Makoto, to close with your point here.
I mean, just one word. Just enjoy your science. This is most important part, I believe.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you for everyone here. Thanks for your time.